The sport outside of the sweet science you enjoyed covering the most would be what, Jim?
Outside of the sweet science, the sport I enjoyed covering the most, well, I had, so many different experiences. I mean, you mentioned the 14 Olympics. I had a dozen years of hosting Wimbledon on HBO, and I love the very thin margins of competition in tennis, as evidenced once again last night by Federer's upset loss at the hands of the number 55 ranked player in the world. That kind of thing happens more frequently in tennis than in any other sport. And I really learned to love that when I was covering it with Arthur Ashe, Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, Mary Kerlow. We had an amazing lineup of expert commentators working with me when we were doing that. I got my start covering college football at ABC in the 1970s, and I did have several years as the, quote, senior reporter for Real Sports. And I've always liked, the graininess of the topical story and everything. So I couldn't really isolate any one thing. I've had a lot of lucky gigs.
So what was the first gig you ever had, Jim?
Well, I was chosen from a nationwide talent hunt in 1974 to go to work on the college football sidelines for ABC. But the very first broadcasting gig was to work on pregame and postgame radio shows with football coach Bill Dooley and basketball coach Dean Smith at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
What was that like with Dean Smith, Jim?
I learned so many amazing lessons of life from Dean Smith, and there are things he said to me and lessons I learned from Coach Smith that come up virtually every day in my life.
Like what?
Well, I'll never forget in 1972, the first time I ever came to Los Angeles. The Final Four was here in L.A., and North Carolina was heavily favored against a kind of little-known Florida State team in one semifinal. And UCLA was heavily favored in the other semifinal against Louisville. And UCLA and Carolina had been number 1 and 2 all year long. UCLA had Walton. Carolina had McAdoo. Our question in Chapel Hill was, when McAdoo goes to the top of the key and shoots rainbow jumpers, is Walton going to go with him? And to make a long story short, a tremendous player named Bill Chamberlain, who had been the MVP of the Eastern Regional the week before, was 3 or 4 minutes late to the pregame meal at the Century Plaza Hotel, and Coach Smith calmly announced to the team that Bill wouldn't play the first half. And the team was psychologically discombobulated. Florida State went up by 21 points in the first half, and a second half comeback fell short. And after the game, I realized I was about to have to ask Coach Smith the first difficult question of my career. So in the interview, I asked him, I said, I was in the pregame meal. I saw that Bill was 3 minutes late. This was the national semifinal. Could an exception have been made? And Coach Smith looked at me blankly and said, tonight was one night. We coach every player for 4 years. And I think of that almost every day of my life. Seriously.
That is one day in coach.
Tonight was one night. We coach every player for 4 years. That was the end of the subject.
You're getting emotional just bringing this up right
now.
Well,
I mean, I can't think of Coach Smith without getting emotional. And by the way, that puts me in the same category with all of the players who played for him.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.